State Albany Bureau Chief John Lentz, and joining me today is Marcia Bystryn, the head of the New York League of Conservation Voters. Thanks for joining us today.
My pleasure.
And so your organization has been quite involved in a lot of key state Senate races in New York this year. It's also something you started focusing on, I think, 2 years ago. But you recently reached a major threshold in your...
Yes, we did. Yes, we did. Yes, we did. This is actually what's interesting is this is our 25th anniversary as an organization. We've been active with our PAC probably for about the last 6 years. And this year we have raised and will spend $1 million on 4 targeted races.
And those 4 races again?
Mark Grisanti, Justin Wagner, Adrian Esposito, and O'Brien.
And Ted O'Brien
and
in the
Ted
Rochester
O'Brien.
district.
Exactly.
Right.
So we're all over the state, Hudson Valley, Western New York, and Long Island.
And this level of money you've raised, and you'll be spending the last few days of the campaign still, that's unprecedented. That's more than you did.
It's 3 times as much as we did 2 years ago in the last cycle. So this is a really quantum leap. And from our perspective, it's important because we believe that unless the environmental community can really put money on the table in the electoral cycle, we really won't be players, and we won't be able to advance our agenda.
And what kind of impact do you think this will have? And what impact did it have like 2 years ago? I know you started investing a little bit more 2 years ago on this.
Well, I think it has 2 impacts. At one level, you're more likely to get the people you want elected, so that's one plus. The other is, in the broader political community, you are given a lot more respect because you're perceived to be able to move the dial in elections. And that's really what politicians care about.
Sure. And any specific bills that you saw, get more momentum this last year?
Absolutely. I think one of our key issues is the Child Safe Products Act. Last year, it had, I believe, 40 sponsors in the Senate. It passed the Assembly, had 40 sponsors in the Senate. But Dean never took it to the floor. So we are focusing on that issue in almost all of our campaign work, raising the profile of that because I want that passed next year.
I know State Senator Mark Grisanti was a champion of that issue. He's a Republican in the Senate. As you said, still wasn't able to get that bill to the floor. But he's in a really interesting race out in Western New York.
Yes, he is.
Yes,
he is.
Republican primary. He's continuing on the Independence Party line. Looks like it might be a long shot. Any thoughts on how the race is playing out?
I think it's going to be close, but I think he is a real competitor. The Buffalo paper endorsed him, basically said all the other candidates are not ready for prime time. And we are certainly spending a lot of time and energy to make sure that the voters go out to vote for him.
Right. And I know your organization makes a point of being bipartisan, endorsing candidates on both sides of the aisle. But there's been some reporting, with your PAC, how you get donations from the real estate industry on one side, you get donations from the teachers union on the other side, the IDC, their PAC has given some money. Are there any concerns about, the transparency there? You get the money from all these different sides, where the actual money's going, if you can be sort of this group that gives them a veneer of respectability or sort of to kind of mislead people?
The teachers union needs a veneer of respect. No, I think what's important for everybody to realize is that we have a very rigorous process for determining who we endorse, and then an even more rigorous process in deciding who we invest in. So, there are board interviews, there's a questionnaire, there's several layers of the board that vote on this. And after we endorsed 80 candidates statewide, we decided there were 4 races that we thought were priorities, competitive Senate races where environment plays. And those are the races that we told donors we were going to invest in. So we set the terms on who the candidates are. And then people invest in us who have an interest in that candidate and who think we're effective political players. And it's totally transparent where we get our money.
And,
absolutely.
And in the case of the IDC money that came in, there was a report on that in the past week or so. Could you say where that money is going to? Which candidate?
Well, let me just say, I mean, money from the IDC is probably going to go for both Republicans and Democrats, because we're endorsing 3 Dems, one now independent, former Republican, the Grisanti we talked about. So, I mean, their money will go for both.
Sure. And so when it comes to the question of actually who's in control in the state Senate, that's a major question this year. It's maybe the most
Absolutely.
competitive set of races out there. Does your organization have a specific stance? Would it like to see Republicans in control? Would it like to see the coalition that we've had continue? Would it like to see Democrats in control?
What we want is a legislature that's pro-environment. So all of our endorsements are predicated on the performance of individual elected officials. We think that's the best way to move an environmental agenda, and we're absolutely agnostic on who ends up controlling the Senate.
Marcia Bystryn, thanks for joining us today.
My pleasure always.